Picture this. It's a totally normal, quiet suburban evening.
Right, just a classic neighborhood scene.
Exactly. The sun is just starting to set, casting those long golden shadows across the pavement. The heat of the day is finally breaking.
The best part of the day, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. And, you're standing in your kitchen, maybe you're pouring a cup of coffee or washing a dish, and you're just looking out your front window. Everything is exactly as it should be. It is the textbook definition of mundane.
Completely baseline. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Right. Down the block, a guy is strolling by, casually walking his golden retriever. A couple of contractors in dusty clothes, maybe tile layers or painters. They're wrapping up their shift, just walking down the street toward the bus stop.
Very typical.
And an elderly man in traditional clothes is slowly pushing a heavy, old-school loading bicycle over the speed bumps. Plus, over at the corner, an auto rickshaw just pulled up. A mother is standing at the curb, paying the fare, while her two kids wait patiently on the pavement.
I mean, it's a scene playing out in a million neighborhoods right now. The brain sees it and instantly categorizes it as safe.
Safe, right? But here's the question I really want you, our listener, to consider right now. What if absolutely none of these people are who they seem to be?
That's the terrifying part.
It is. What if, instead of a peaceful, disconnected neighborhood scene, you are actually looking at a highly coordinated, multi-layered hostile reconnaissance operation? What if every single one of those people is currently working together to map the vulnerabilities of your home?
It is a deeply unsettling thought. And the reason it's so unsettling is that we are biologically and culturally conditioned to accept these everyday scenes at face value.
We just trust it.
We do. We see a dog leash, we see a tool belt, we see a child eating a popsicle, and our brain's threat detection system simply powers down.
Because we're looking for the obvious bad guy.
Exactly. We have been trained by decades of movies and television to look for the guy in the black ski mask creeping through the rhododendrons. But what we're actually looking at in those seemingly innocent moments is the bleeding edge of modern property casing.
So how do we know this is happening? Because today, we are cracking open a massive stack of fascinating and honestly chillingly detailed security logs from mid-2026.
These logs are incredible. They represent a major breakthrough in counter-surveillance.
They really do. They expose the brand new face of street-level reconnaissance. So in this deep dive, we are going to decode the psychological indicators, the shifting decoy personas, and the high-tech digital mapping tactics that professional scouts use to case properties right in plain sight.
It's a completely different paradigm.
It reminds me of a magician's sleight of hand. I mean, the goal of a master illusionist isn't to be invisible, right?
No, of course not.
Because if they tried to be invisible, you would immediately notice them hiding behind a curtain. The goal is to stand right in front of you in broad daylight and make you look at the exact wrong thing.
Wow, that's a brilliant framework for understanding these logs. To understand why these tactics have evolved this way, we really have to look at the broader context of 2026.
Right.
The arms race between home security technology and criminals has fundamentally shifted. You cannot just kick a door in anymore.
Because everyone has cameras now.
Not just cameras. Homes are rigged with high-definition overlapping camera grids, passive infrared motion sensors, and AI-driven perimeter alerts. Traditional brute force crime is basically a guaranteed arrest.
So they had to get smarter.
They had to evolve. The threat model had to evolve into an intelligence-gathering war. The most dangerous operations today are the ones that systematically map a target's technological and human vulnerabilities long before a strike ever happens.
By hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
Yeah.
They hide behind the camouflage of everyday routines. They weaponize our social norms against us. And these logs, they provide an unprecedented minute-by-minute breakdown of exactly how they orchestrate this.
So let's start by looking at what the logs call the weaponization of the mundane. Before we even get into the massive multi-person chameleon networks, we really need to understand how a solo operator bypasses the human brain's threat detection system.
We have to start with the baseline, yeah.
Right. So let's look at the late-night dog walker incident. According to the logs, on July 28th, right around 10:01 p.m., security systems picked up a lone individual using what has to be the ultimate neighborhood free pass.
The dog leash. It is arguably the most effective behavioral shield in modern reconnaissance.
It's genius in a dark way.
It really is. I want you to think about the social physics of a suburban street at 10 o'clock at night. If a person is just standing on a dark street corner, staring at a house for 5 minutes, What happened?
Oh, the neighbors call the cops immediately. Or, the private security guard drives over with his flashing lights. It's a massive anomaly.
Exactly. It breaks the baseline of normal behavior. But if that exact same person is holding a dog leash in their left hand, the behavior is instantly justified in the minds of anyone watching.
Because the dog is the excuse.
Right. The leash provides an unquestionable alibi for slow pacing. It provides an alibi for frequent, unpredictable pauses. It justifies late-night loitering.
Because, dogs dictate the pace. Dogs stop to sniff a fire hydrant, they wander in circles, they refuse to move. So the human holding the leash is allowed to just stand there looking around, waiting for the dog.
We project the dog's innocence onto the human.
We do.
Yeah.
But the logs get incredibly granular about what this specific suspect was actually doing. While he's holding the leash in his left hand, he's continuously grooming his hair with his right hand.
This is where it gets highly technical.
Well, I actually have to stop here and push back slightly on the analysis in the logs, because they flag this as a tactical distraction. But come on, isn't it highly probable that he's just vain? Or maybe he's just nervous?
It's a fair question.
People touch their hair all the time. Why jump to the conclusion that a hair flip is some covert military-grade tactic?
I am really glad you brought that up because in isolation, you are entirely correct. Touching your hair is a meaningless, common human gesture.
Right.
But in the context of behavioral analysis and counter-surveillance, we never look at isolated actions. We look for clusters of actions and biomechanical anomalies.
Okay, so what was the anomaly here?
When security analysts reviewed the footage of this individual, they realized he was executing an exaggerated, highly repetitive grooming motion. Every single time he reached up to stroke his hair, something very specific happened with his cervical spine.
His neck?
Yes, his head tilted sharply, snapping his eye line directly toward the target property.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see it now. It's like a mechanical pivot.
Exactly.
The big sweeping arm movement of fixing the hair acts as a visual decoy.
Oh.
It hides the fact that his neck is snapping side to side.
You've hit the nail on the head. We're talking about exploiting the human visual cortex. As observers, our eyes are naturally drawn to large motor movements.
Like a swinging arm.
Yes. That large movement completely distracts any observer, whether it's a security guard or a neighbor peeking through the blinds, from the fine motor movement of the eyes and the neck.
That's wild.
He is using the casual hair stroke to completely mask a multi-level visual sweep of the property. He is not fixing his hair at all. He is hiding the trajectory of his days.
That is incredibly subtle. It's so subtle.
Yeah.
So what is he actually looking at during these split-second glances? Because if he's only getting these quick, masked looks, he has to be prioritizing his targets, right?
He is. The logs detail that he is executing a highly systematic three-part sweep. This is not casual curiosity. This is a structured audit.
Okay, what's step one?
First, he conducts a vehicle assessment. As he walks past the gate, his eyes drop to the driveway. He is scanning the parked cars, logging license plates, identifying high-value assets, and most importantly, checking to see which specific cars are home.
Right, because in a multi-car household, if the luxury SUV is gone but the sedan is there, he knows exactly who's currently occupying the house and who is out.
Precisely. It gives him an immediate internal occupancy map. Second, he shifts his gaze slightly higher to conduct a reflective glass and window assessment on the ground floor.
Looking for what exactly?
He is looking at the locking mechanisms on sliding doors, but more importantly, he's looking at the glass under low light conditions. Are the internal blinds drawn? Can he see the reflection of a television screen flickering?
Oh, because if he can see the TV reflection.
If there is a reflection, he can map the interior layout from the street. He knows where the couch is, where the sightlines are.
Man, that's creepy. And the third part of the sweep.
This is where the long-term intelligence gathering comes in. He tilts his head up for a second-floor lighting assessment.
He's looking to see which upstairs bedrooms are lit up at 10 p.m.
Let's take that a step further. If you map those second-floor lights over a period of 3 or 4 nights, you aren't just looking at lights.
What are you looking at?
You are accurately charting the late-night guard shift patterns, the residents' sleep habits, and the active indoor occupancy zones. You know that the master bedroom light goes off at 10:30 p.m., but the teenager's room stays lit until 1 a.m.
Oh, man.
You know exactly when the house is fully asleep and vulnerable, and all of this incredibly sensitive, actionable intelligence is being gathered by a guy who just looks like he's impatiently waiting for his golden retriever to finish sniffing a bush.
Yeah, that is terrifyingly simple. It requires zero technology, just a leash, a dog, and a calculated hair flip. But this naturally brings up a problem for the scouts, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, a dog leash only works as a behavioral shield at night or maybe in the very early morning. If a guy is walking his dog back and forth past the same house at 1, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday for hours on end, the illusion breaks.
It does. The anomaly stands out.
So how do they transition this intelligence gathering into the broad daylight?
They trade the leash for a tool belt. If a dog provides the ultimate nighttime alibi, the uniform of the blue-collar worker, the hard hat, the dusty boots, the reflective vest, provides the ultimate daytime camouflage.
It makes perfect sense.
Huh.
I mean, contractors, plumbers, landscapers, tile layers,
Mm-hmm.
they are the invisible lifeblood of any suburban neighborhood. We don't even look twice at a white panel van anymore.
No, they're practically invisible.
So how on earth do you tell a legitimate laborer from a covert scout?
This brings us to a chilling sequence documented in the logs from July 18th to the 22nd. Security teams tracked a methodical campaign carried out by two men who presented as migrant workers.
What were they pretending to do?
They were ostensibly hired for tile laying services in the neighborhood. Now, to spot the anomaly, you have to understand the baseline. Real labor is defined by physical output and exhaustion.
Right.
If you are a tile mason walking to a job site in the afternoon heat, your biomechanics reflect that. Your eyes are on the ground, your shoulders are slumped, your focus is entirely on getting to the shade or getting the job done.
You're just trying to survive the day.
Exactly. Your body language is geared toward heavy physical exertion and conserving energy.
Right. You're sweating, you're exhausted, you're looking at your boots. You aren't aggressively scanning the environment.
Exactly. But these two suspects exhibited stark behavioral markers that completely contradicted their blue-collar camouflage. Instead of trudging passively to the job site, they deployed highly structured tactical formations. The logs detail this as a lead and follow formation.
I read this part, and it genuinely blew my mind. They aren't walking shoulder to shoulder like two buddies going to work.
No, not all.
One guy walks about 20 or 30 paces ahead, and the other trails behind.
Yeah.
And they're both wearing AirPods. They're using off-the-shelf consumer technology to maintain an open, real-time audio channel while maintaining physical distance.
It is a classic infantry patrol tactic adapted for suburban espionage. The guy in the back is acting as the overwatch, the lookout. He keeps his eyes peeled for approaching security vehicles, police cruisers, or observant homeowners, and feeds that information through the AirPods.
So the guy in front is completely free to work.
Exactly. Because his rear is covered, the guy in the front is free to actively tilt his head, aggressively logging occupancy, mapping entry points, and locating the exact positions of motion-sensing alarms on the properties they pass.
And if the lookout sees something,
If the guy in the back says guard approaching, the guy in the front instantly drops his head and goes back to looking like a tired tile layer.
it is a perfectly synchronized dance.
Hmm.
And they are incredibly aware of how the neighborhood's security infrastructure works. There's an entry from August 5th where these same two suspects approach a residence they know is unoccupied.
Right.
But they don't just stand on the sidewalk in front of it. They utilize what the logs call the hibiscus cover.
This is a phenomenal example of how physical scouts adapt to digital defenses.
So to avoid standing out in the open where the street cameras can clearly log their faces and their linger time, they find this massive hibiscus plant growing on the public street near the property wall.
Yep.
And they tuck themselves right up against the foliage. They use the plant as organic camouflage to conceal their bodies while they photograph the locked house.
And we have to ask, why a plant? Why not a parked car or a brick pillar?
Yeah, why?
It comes down to how modern smart cameras operate. Many smart cameras use passive infrared, or PIR, combined with pixel contrast algorithms to detect motion.
Okay, so it senses heat and pixel changes.
Right. And when the wind blows, a large leafy plant like a hibiscus moves constantly. This creates a localized noise floor of motion. To prevent the homeowner's phone from buzzing every 5 seconds with a false alarm, the AI in the camera often filters out the motion of the plant. These scouts know this. By tucking themselves into the organic movement of the leaves, they mask their own micro-movements. They are effectively hiding in the AI's blind spot. And while they are standing there, they are actively calculating the field of view of every camera on the street, mapping out the dead zones.
They are auditing the street's digital defenses using a bush. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But here is the tactic that I found the most brilliant and honestly something I would never have spotted in a million years. The logs call it the reverse camera walk.
It is an absolute masterclass in exploiting modern social assumptions.
Let me set this scenario up for you, for the listener. So these two guys, in their dusty work clothes, are standing by a vehicle gate of a high-value home. One of them has his smartphone out. They're looking down at the screen, laughing, pointing, smiling.
Which looks completely harmless.
Right. If you look out your window, what do you see? You see two guys watching a funny video, maybe laughing at a meme. It's the most normal thing in the world. But they aren't looking at a funny video at all.
Not even close.
As they slowly start walking away, heading back down the street, the guy holding the phone switches it to reverse camera mode, the front-facing selfie camera.
Right.
He holds the device flat, roughly at chest level, still pretending to laugh and look down at the screen.
Yeah.
But because modern smartphones have those massive, ultra-wide-angle selfie lenses, the camera is actually pointed behind him, capturing a 120-degree field of view.
It's so clever.
He is recording a continuous, high-definition 4K video can of the entire street, the security gate, and the unmonitored home as they walk away.
Think about the psychology of why this works so flawlessly. Society has completely normalized vanity and screen addiction.
Oh, totally.
If you see someone standing on the sidewalk pointing the back of your camera directly at your house, your territorial instincts flare up. You go outside, you confront them, you ask why they're filming your property.
Because it's aggressive.
Yes. But if you see two guys laughing at a screen that is facing upward toward their own faces, your brain dismisses them as absorbed in their own digital world. We suffer from cognitive blindness when it comes to selfies. Meanwhile, they are gathering gigabytes of structural intelligence without ever breaking their casual demeanor.
It's terrifying. It really makes you second-guess everyone you see staring at their phone on your street. But it isn't just foot traffic, is it?
No, it scales up.
Because the logs show a distinct transition from these slow-moving foot scouts to rapid, highly mobile units. Let's talk about the high-tech drive-by from July 15th. We've got a two-bike sweep.
This incident perfectly highlights the evolution of speed in modern reconnaissance. If we look back 20 years, casing a target from a vehicle meant a slow, creeping panel van driving at 5 miles an hour.
Right, which looks incredibly shady.
Exactly. It looked inherently suspicious. Today, it's fast-paced, aggressive, and highly digital. The incident on the 15th involved two motorbikes moving through the neighborhood at a moderately fast clip.
So Bike 1 acts as the point man, the scout. The rider has a phone wedged between his ear and his shoulder, leaning forward in this slanting, aggressive posture so he can navigate and talk at the same time.
He's on an open comms line.
Yeah. He is clearing the path ahead. He's making sure there are no police cruisers, no active homeowners watering their lawns, no unexpected variables. And then, following closely behind, is Bike 2.
The recorder.
Right. Both the rider and the passenger on Bike 2 have their phones raised openly. They aren't even trying to hide it. They're aggressively mapping the doors, zooming in on keypad models, and looking for valuables in parked cars as they speed by.
Very brazen.
But here's the observation I had when I read this, and I genuinely thought they were just being amateurish. Neither of the passengers on these bikes were wearing helmets.
Yes.
Now, if I'm preparing to commit a crime or mapping a target for a syndicate, my first thought is anonymity. I want a full-face helmet with a tinted visor so no camera can catch my identity. But they deliberately chose to ride bareheaded. Why?
It is a great question, and it is a tactical trade-off that separates amateurs from professional intelligence gatherers. You are right that discarding helmets sacrifices facial anonymity. Furthermore, in most jurisdictions, it is a traffic violation, which inherently draws a low level of risk from traffic police.
Like, why risk a ticket?
Because in rapid casing scenarios, a helmet is a massive liability. A full-face helmet severely restricts your peripheral vision. By ditching the helmets, they maximize their field of view to nearly 180 degrees. It allows them to rapidly scan their surroundings and absorb data at high speeds.
I hadn't thought of the vision restriction at all.
It goes beyond just vision, too. It's about agility. If they spot an immediate high-value opportunity, say a laptop left on the passenger seat of an unlocked car or a garage door left wide open, they need to be able to dismount, secure the asset, and remount the bikes in seconds.
And a bulky helmet just gets in the way.
Bulky headgear gets in the way. It throws off balance. They are making a calculated decision. They are prioritizing speed, peripheral vision, and high-def digital data capture over traditional anonymity.
Which makes sense because, I mean, by the time the homeowner reviews the footage and realizes what just happened, the bikes are already miles away.
Exactly.
So let's take a step back and look at what we have so far. We've seen solo actors using dog leashes at night. We've seen small teams disguised as laborers during the day. And we've seen rapid mobile units using speed.
A very diverse toolkit.
But here is the massive problem these scouts face: time. If you need to map a perimeter over a period of 2 weeks to establish rock-solid schedules, you can't keep sending the same guy with the dog.
No, absolutely not.
You can't keep sending the same 2 tile layers either, because eventually the security guards or even just a nosy neighbor will recognize the recurring profile.
That is the fundamental flaw of long-term surveillance. The human brain is an incredibly powerful pattern recognition machine. If we see the same face doing the same mundane thing 3 days in a row, the threat detection alarm sounds.
The baseline is broken.
Exactly, the baseline is broken. To bypass this, sophisticated intelligence gathering operations employ a multi-layered shift strategy that we refer to in the security industry as a chameleon network.
A chameleon network. It sounds like something out of a spy novel. I was trying to figure out how to explain this, and the best analogy I could come up with is MSC address spoofing on a computer network.
That is a highly accurate comparison. Explain your thought process there.
Well, every device on a Wi-Fi network has a unique identifier, a MAC address.
No.
If a hacker wants to keep probing a secure router without getting blocked, they use software to constantly change their MSC address.
Right.
The router thinks it's dealing with a brand new, innocent device every single time, so it lets them through. These scouts are doing the exact same thing, but in the physical world. They change their demographics, their clothes, and their apparent age entirely to prevent the human security guards from identifying a recurring threat profile.
Exactly. They're spoofing their biological and cultural signatures. Let's look at how the logs detail this chameleon network operating between July 13th and 15th.
Okay, let's go into the shifts.
It is a highly disciplined, multi-person scanning operation that utilized diverse cultural and religious pretexts to mask their intent.
The rotating shifts are wild to read about. Let's walk through them. On day 1, July 13th, the scout is a woman wearing a fully covered black parda, or burqa. She walks the route.
Very normal sight in many neighborhoods.
Right. Day 2, the morning shift is taken by an elderly man wearing a traditional shirt and a mundu, holding a namaz prayer cap. Then on the afternoon of day 2, a totally different woman, this time wearing a hijab and a Nazneen cap, takes over the route.
I really want to emphasize the psychological genius behind these specific disguises. If a security guard is sitting in a booth, looking at the street, or reviewing these logs without advanced behavioral training, what do they see?
Just random people.
They see 3 completely distinct, unrelated demographics. A heavily covered woman, an elderly traditional man, and a younger religious woman. They do not connect the dots because society categorizes people by their outward appearance.
We just put them in different buckets.
We do. But more importantly, the scouts are intentionally utilizing cultural and religious garments because they know it creates social friction.
Social friction, you mean like the fear of being accused of profiling?
Precisely. In modern society, confronting an elderly man holding a prayer cap or interrogating a woman in a burqa who is simply walking down the street carries a massive risk of social and professional backlash for a security guard.
Oh, absolutely. The guard could lose his job.
The scouts know that guards will hesitate to challenge these specific profiles. They are weaponizing our cultural sensitivities to create an operational buffer.
But the logs reveal that beneath these shifting garments, they are all executing the exact same playbook. Which brings us to what I think is the most fascinating physical tell in the entire document, the runway walk anomaly.
This is where physical disguise fails to hide technical necessity.
Exactly. On day 1, when the woman in the pradar is walking down this road, and the logs specifically describe the road as having bumpy, uneven asphalt and potholes, she isn't walking normally.
Not at all.
The log notes she marched with a perfectly straight, rigid alignment. I pictured it like a runway model or a soldier marching in a military parade. She completely ignored the hazardous terrain. I read that and thought, maybe she just has incredibly good posture. Why did the analysts flag a straight spine as a massive red flag?
Because it violates the fundamental laws of human biomechanics. When a normal human being walks on an uneven, pothole-filled surface, their body naturally, instinctively adapts.
You sort of slump and bounce.
Right. Your shoulders sway, your posture loosens to absorb the shock, and you instinctively cast your eyes downward to ensure you don't twist an ankle. It is an evolutionary survival trait.
But she didn't do that.
No. This woman maintained a rigid, perfectly straight spine. She was actively, consciously overriding her body's natural terrain adaptation. Why? Because she was acting as a biological tripod.
A biological tripod?
Yes. She was actively stabilizing a concealed mobile phone hidden beneath the folds of her garment.
Oh, wow.
Modern smartphone cameras have optical image stabilization, sure, but they cannot compensate for the heavy bouncing gait of someone walking over
That'd
potholes.
just be a blurry mess.
Exactly. If she walks naturally, the video footage she is secretly capturing will be a shaky, unusable blur. By marching with that rigid militaristic authority, locking her core and gliding her upper body, she ensures smooth, high-definition video capture of the property.
That is incredible. So the weird walk isn't a personality quirk.
Hmm.
It is a physical requirement of the technology she's hiding. Her body had to become a stable camera mount.
Mm.
And you mentioned earlier that the analysts realized these three different people were actually part of the same network. How did they prove that if they all looked completely different?
Because of the shared ocular pattern, this is the biometric fingerprint of a trained intelligence network.
The ocular pattern.
Yes. Despite the different clothes, the different ages, and the different genders, the woman in the parda, the elderly man, and the woman in the hijab all executed the exact same highly trained scanning pattern.
Walk us through what that pattern looks like.
As they walked past the target property, their eyes performed a flawless grid search. First, a vertical scan, starting from the ground level gates up the walls to the second floor windows and finally the roofline, looking for cameras and access points.
Okay, so bottom to top.
Yes. This was immediately followed by a lateral scan, sweeping left to right, covering all physical entry points, and then, crucially, every single one of them ended their sweep with the exact same anomaly. A dead, fixed stare directly at the window.
A dead stare. It sounds incredibly creepy. What is the tactical purpose of staring at the window?
It is a counter-surveillance check. After they map the physical structure of the house, they lock their eyes on the most likely observation points, the windows, to see if anyone is looking back at them.
Oh, they're checking if they've been spotted.
They are checking to see if they have been compromised. If you are just a casual pedestrian admiring a nice house, your eyes wander. You might glance at the landscaping, then the door, then keep walking.
Right, you don't stare.
You certainly do not systematically scan it on an X and Y axis and then stare down the glass. This specific ocular pattern proved that beneath the shifting cultural disguises, they were all operating from the exact same tactical training manual.
So we've seen how adult networks use shifting disguises and social friction to avoid detection. But the logs now transition into a tier of property reconnaissance that I found genuinely hard to read.
It's very dark.
It exploits our deepest, most hardwired societal blind spot. It is brilliant from a tactical perspective and completely unethical from a human one. I'm talking about the weaponization of minors, using children to map security systems.
It is perhaps the most psychologically manipulative tactic detailed in these entire logs. And it works flawlessly because of human nature.
Because we just don't suspect kids.
Society simply does not suspect children of malicious intent. We view them as innocent, chaotic, easily distracted, and fundamentally harmless. By integrating children directly into the surveillance operation, these scouts generate an impenetrable cloak of innocence that short-circuits any security guard's suspicion.
Let's break down what the logs call the fair and fair cover. This wasn't just a one-off incident. This was a highly coordinated, months-long operation stretching from March all the way into July.
It was relentless.
The setup is always identical. An auto rickshaw pulls up to the curb directly in front of the target property. The logs are so precise they actually list the plates KL21C 8364 and KL01CF930.
The detail is staggering.
An adult female gets out of the back and she stays right at the curb to negotiate and pay the driver.
I want you to visualize the physical geometry of that moment. The adult female is anchoring herself precisely at the boundary line between public and private space.
It's right on the curb.
She is engaged in a financial transaction, digging in her purse, counting change, talking to the driver. A financial transaction is a universally understood, highly distracting activity. Anyone watching assumes her total focus is on the money. She acts as a deliberate, calculated visual blocker.
Right. While the security guard in the booth, or the resident looking out the window, is focused on the woman paying the driver, assuming it's just a normal drop-off, a minor uses that exact window of distraction to cross the boundary line.
The adult is the decoy.
And the child is the probe. And over the months, the logs show this behavior escalating. Back in March, the kid just crosses the curb and stands on the driveway. By July, the minor is pushing deep into the private gate, actively peering inside the compound.
Testing the limits.
Now, if a lone adult walked up a private driveway and stared into a compound, alarms would ring. Security would rush out. But because it's a kid, people just rationalize it. Well, kids will be kids. They wander off. They're curious.
It is a calculated incremental breach. The adult network is testing the physical boundaries of the property, but they are using the child as a deniable probe. They want to see how close they can get before someone reacts.
And they take it a massive step further.
You do, with the coordinated camera mapping detailed in late July.
The July 31st entry is the one that really sent chills down my spine. You have a staged family pretext. A mother is walking down the street, flanked by two children. The mother is looking down at her smartphone, acting completely distracted, totally absorbed in her screen. But what are the kids doing?
They are executing a structured intelligence audit.
The lead miner, walking slightly in front, is pointing at every single security camera on the perimeter wall and counting them aloud. 1, 2, 3, actively mapping the grid.
Unbelievable.
Meanwhile, the rear miner, trailing slightly behind, isn't looking at the cameras. The rear miner is staring dead ahead at the front door of the house.
Analyze the mechanics of this formation because it is essentially a military patrol executed by a family.
It really is.
The mother provides the innocent pretext, the distracted parent. The lead miner is conducting a highly structured audit of the facility's blind spots, the camera types, and the overlapping fields of view. And the rear miner is assigned to monitor the human response.
Watching the door.
By staring at the door, the rear child is watching to see if a resident or a guard steps out to intervene.
And think about the brilliant deniability of it. If a guard does step out and say, hey, what are you doing? What happens?
The mother apologizes.
Exactly. The mother simply looks up from her phone, acts startled, apologizes profusely for her kids pointing at things, grabs their hands, and walks away. There is zero consequence. There is no arrest. They are openly mapping the exact coordinate zones of the perimeter security grid in broad daylight, using the absolute immunity of childhood.
It is risk-free reconnaissance, which brings us to an even more extreme variation of this tactic. The toddler shield from August 1st.
This one really stuck with me because of how dark it is. A motorcyclist, again, plates log as KL1DB5853 parks dead center in front of the target's vehicle gate at 10 p.m.
Not during the day. At night.
Not 10 a.m., 10 p.m. He has a toddler propped up on his petrol tank, and they're both just sitting there in the dark eating ice candies.
It is a disturbing exploitation of innocence, designed to hack the biological response of the observer.
Why do this at 10 p.m.? If you want to map a gate, why bring a baby?
Because the toddler acts as a biological rear lookout and a psychological dampener. Think about it. While the rider is focused forward, assessing the gate hinges, the lock types, and the internal lighting, the toddler is naturally looking around.
Right. Kids don't sit still.
Toddlers are hyper-observant of movement. If someone approaches from behind, the toddler will react, alerting the rider. But more importantly, the presence of a toddler eating ice candy at night completely short-circuits the response protocol of anyone watching on a camera.
It's that hesitation you mentioned earlier.
Yes. If a security guard sees a lone adult male idling a motorcycle at a residential gate at 10 p.m., protocol dictates immediate action. You call the police or you deploy a patrol.
But with a kid.
But when that guard sees a man with a toddler eating a popsicle, their brain stutters. They hesitate. They begin to rationalize the anomaly. Maybe they're just taking a break. Maybe his wife kicked him out of the house because the baby wouldn't stop crying and he's just going for a ride.
We invent a story to make it okay.
That hesitation, that 30 to 60 seconds of internal debate by the guard, is the operational window. The scout uses that time to gather the data, and the log explicitly notes that the very moment the perimeter motion alarm finally trips and an audible warning sounds, the bike immediately flees.
So the kid was just a tool?
The child was nothing more than a human shield against immediate aggressive suspicion.
We are seeing incredible speed with the high-tech bikes and incredible disguise with the kids and the chameleon network. But there is another weapon in this surveillance arsenal, and it's perhaps the most difficult to defend against because it defies our modern expectation of instant gratification.
Ah, yes. A long game. Extreme patience. The willingness to conduct micro-audits over days, weeks, or even months. This is the hallmark of top-tier intelligence gathering. And this introduces the concept of the insider threat, which the logs track meticulously from April through August.
Now, when we say insider threat, we usually think of a corporate spy stealing files off a server.
Right, some guy with a USB drive.
Yeah, but here, this involves a contracted housekeeping staff member, someone who is legitimately employed, who has the keys, who is supposed to be there. But the logs reveal that her intelligence gathering doesn't start when she walks in the door. It starts out on the street.
This is a crucial detail for our listeners to understand. How household staff can be utilized for occupancy mapping.
Before she even starts her shift, before she crosses the threshold of the gate, she conducts a 6-point perimeter sweep from the public roadway.
While she's just walking up to the house.
Right. She stands on the street and tracks the vehicle positions in the driveway. She looks at the glare on the reflective glass to see if anyone is moving inside. She maps the external state of the house before entering.
Very methodical.
And later in the logs, she actually coordinates with the street teams, using a miner to point out camera blind spots from the pavement. Why would someone who already has access to the inside need to map the outside?
Because she is contextualizing internal data with external baselines.
Yeah.
If she just walks straight into the house, she only knows what is happening right in front of her. She sees the husband in the kitchen, so she knows he is home.
Makes sense.
But by checking the vehicles and the glass every single morning from the street, she is building a comparative matrix. If she sees that the husband's luxury SUV is gone from the driveway, but she can see his reflection moving in the upstairs bedroom window, she has gathered highly valuable intelligence.
Because the visual doesn't match the expectation.
She knows he took an Uber, leaving his car behind, but he is still home. She knows the house looks empty from the outside, but is occupied on the inside. By establishing this baseline every single day, she knows exactly what the vulnerabilities are before she ever opens the door. She is bridging the gap between street-level casing and internal security.
That is a level of deductive reasoning that is truly staggering. But if we are talking about extreme patience and micro-audits, we have to talk about the grandfather cover.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
This sequence from July 11th to the 16th is just mind-blowing. We have an elderly man pushing a heavy Hercules-loading bicycle. Over just 6 days, this man executed 20 specific documented scans of the target property.
20 passes in 6 days is a massive frequency. It is a highly aggressive, high-density intelligence-gathering operation, completely masked by a slow, unassuming, fragile profile.
The master timeline of his operation is wild to read. Day 1, he focuses purely on establishing a baseline. He checks the property 8 times, morning, afternoon, late evening. He is just figuring out the rhythm of the street.
Casting a wide net.
Right. Day 2, he checks 6 times, heavily targeting window vulnerabilities, looking at the latches and the glass. By day 3 through 6, the frequency drops, but the precision skyrockets. He shifts to verifying schedules.
Narrowing it down.
He starts checking at exact recurring times, like exactly at 16:30 every single afternoon.
Yeah.
He is mapping the residents' exact routines. When do they pick the kids up from school? When does the guard take a smoke break? But again, it's the behavioral anomaly that betrays his disguise. The logs call it the tunnel vision litmus test.
This is one of my favorite parts of the logs, because it is where behavioral analysis completely deconstructs the physical disguise.
Break it down for us.
A Hercules loading bicycle is a massive, heavy, cumbersome piece of steel equipment. The street in question is explicitly described in the logs as having muddy terrain, deep potholes, and uneven speed humps.
A tough road to walk on.
Think about the physiological reality of an elderly man pushing a heavy bike over bad terrain. Human survival instinct, specifically our proprioception and balance, dictates that his eyes must be glued to the ground to avoid tripping, twisting an ankle, or tipping the heavy bike over into oncoming traffic.
Right. I was trying to picture this, and it's like someone tightrope walking across a canyon but staring up at a passing airplane.
That's a great way to put it.
You only ignore the immediate physical danger to your body if your brain is hyper-fixated on a high-value mission. And this man completely ignored all the physical hazards of the road. His eyes weren't on the potholes. His eyes were locked upward, permanently fixed on the second-floor windows and the reflective glass of the target property.
Which proves conclusively that the bicycle is merely a prop. It is an alibi for walking at a ridiculously slow pace past the exact same house 20 times in a week.
Because without the bike, it's just a guy pacing.
If a young, fit man walks back and forth past your house 20 times, someone calls the cops. If an old man pushes a heavy bike slowly, our brain pities him. We rationalize it. He's just tired. It's a heavy bike.
We give him a pass.
Furthermore, the large bicycle acts as a mobile physical shield. He can lean against it to rest, using the frame and the cargo basket to block camera angles of his lower body and his hands, all while executing his tunnel vision reconnaissance. His brain completely overrode his baseline road safety instincts to prioritize the structural audit of the house.
So we have all this mapping. We have the tile layers with their AirPods, the kids pointing at cameras, the chameleon shifts spoofing their identities, the housekeeper bridging the inside and outside, and the grandfather with the bike logging 20 passes.
It's an ocean of intelligence.
They are collecting an absolute ocean of data: entry points, blind spots, sleep schedules, guard shifts. But what does this all culminate in? I mean, a map is only good if you plan to travel. Eventually, these scouts have to test the boundaries they've mapped, right? They have to see how the physical and human targets react to pressure.
Precisely. Reconnaissance is inherently passive up to a point, but eventually it needs to measure a dynamic response.
You have to poke the bear.
You can map a motion sensor, but you don't know how long it takes for a guard to respond to it until you actually trigger it. This brings us to the escalation phase documented in late July and early August, where the suspects transition from passive observation to actively probing the sensors and the human responses of the facility.
And they are not subtle about it. On July 30th, the logs show a suspect walking up to the perimeter and literally waving directly at a security camera.
No, it is overtly brazen. They are testing the latency and the human response times. If I wave at this camera, does a floodlight turn on immediately?
Or does a siren go off?
Does an automated speaker emit a warning? Most importantly, does a human guard come walking out of a booth 30 seconds later? By waving at the camera, they are setting a stopwatch. They are measuring the exact reaction time of the security infrastructure.
And then the probing gets deeply psychological and honestly really disturbing. On July 31st and August 22nd, we see suspects engaging in extreme psychological posturing.
Very aggressive behavior.
One guy is standing in the street, howling loudly like an animal and smiling aggressively into open windows. Another suspect engages in severe lewd behavior. The logs note him violently rubbing his genitals over his clothing while walking past the main gate, grinning directly at the security cameras. Now, I have to ask, why on earth would someone draw that kind of disgusting, aggressive attention to themselves if they are part of a covert operation trying to case a house? Doesn't that blow their cover?
It seems entirely counterintuitive to the concept of staying hidden, but it is a highly calculated, deeply manipulative boundary probe. In behavioral science and threat assessment, we often refer to aggressive facial posturing and vocalizations as part of an anger triad.
What is the anger triad?
It typically involves three synchronized behaviors: aggressive facial expressions, threatening vocalizations or breathing, and closed advancing body language. When humans see this triad, our fight-or-flight response goes into overdrive.
Oh, for sure.
This isn't just random mentally ill vulgarity. These scouts are intentionally acting deviant to measure the psychological threshold of the residents and the security team. They are essentially knocking on the door of your psyche, asking a question. What does it take for you to intervene?
Oh, I see.
If I stand outside your child's window and howl, will you call the police? If I commit a lewd act in front of your jeet, will your security guards step out and physically confront me?
Oh, I see it now. Because if the residents just close the blinds, lock the doors, and ignore it, hoping the crazy guy goes away, the scouts learn a massive piece of intelligence. They learn that the target is passive.
Exactly. They learn that the physical boundary, the wall, the gate, is completely unprotected by human assertiveness. They are testing the psychological fortitude of the target. If you won't confront a man howling in the street, you certainly won't confront a team of men jumping your fence at 3 a.m.
All of this intelligence gathering, this micro-mapping, this psychological probing, it all builds to an incredibly tense climax on August 9th. The logs detail an event called the Midnight Handoff.
This is where it all comes together.
It reads literally like a scene out of a Cold War spy thriller. Just past midnight, a motorcycle with a rider and a helmetless passenger slows to a crawl near the rear compound wall of the target.
Right in the shadows.
The passenger drops off the back into the dark shadows. The rider continues into a dark alley down the street and initiates an encrypted phone call. A few minutes later, a totally different vehicle, a scooter, arrives at the alley. The Foyt team emerges from the shadows and they exchange a square, cloth-wrapped object.
Handoff.
It could be a hard drive full of the mapping data, it could be contraband, it could be specialized tools for a future breach. But what blew my mind, what really cemented how professional these guys are, was the counter-surveillance detail the lead rider executed right before the drop.
It perfectly highlights the extreme discipline and situational awareness of these operators.
The lead rider is waiting in the alley for the scooter to arrive. He knows he's exposed, he knows cameras might be on him. So he feigns exhaustion. He does this big, fake, slow arm stretch reaching up to the sky and lets out a massive, exaggerated yawn.
We all do it when we're tired.
But the yawn and the stretch are just an excuse to execute a full 360-degree head rotation. Under the guise of stretching out a kink in his neck, he is rapidly scanning the top floors of all the adjacent buildings, checking the windows to make absolutely sure no witnesses or elevated cameras are catching the handoff.
The fake yawn is the nighttime, stationary equivalent of the hair grooming distraction we saw with the dog walker earlier.
It's the exact same principle.
It is a biological alibi for a tactical movement. A stretch allows you to rotate your torso and neck in ways that would look incredibly suspicious if you just stood there pivoting like a radar dish. They successfully executed the data or contraband exchange, confirmed the perimeter was clear using the fake stretch, and immediately accelerated out of the zone.
So we have just walked through an incredible, deeply unsettling catalog of modern street surveillance. We've seen the escalation of threats from a single guy checking car plates to coordinated data exchanges in the dead of night.
It's a lot to take in.
What does this all mean for you, the listener, sitting at home looking out your window? It means the threat has evolved. It is not the guy in a ski mask anymore.
No, the ski mask is dead.
It is the tile layer using AirPods to coordinate a perimeter sweep. It is the dog walker using a mechanical pivot hair groom to map your second-floor lights. It is the chameleon network spoofing their demographics, shifting from burqas to prayer caps to hijabs to exploit our social friction.
It's all around us.
It is the kids eating ice candy on a motorcycle tank to hack a guard's biological response, and the grandfather completely overriding his survival instincts while pushing a heavy bike over potholes.
The primary, most actionable takeaway here is a fundamental shift in how you must view security. You cannot rely on profiling based on demographics, age, or cultural appearance.
Because they know we do that.
The scouts know our biases, and they wear them as camouflage. To protect yourself, you must train your eyes to look for behavioral anomalies. Does their physical movement match their presumed purpose? Are they overriding safety instincts, like ignoring potholes? Are they scanning your house on a rigid X and Y axis?
Right, you have to look past the outfit.
You need to audit your own blind spots just as rigorously as they do. Understand exactly what can be seen from the street level. Utilize one-way privacy film on reflective glass to deny them an internal occupancy map, and ensure your camera feeds have overlapping fields of view so there are no hidden pathways behind the hibiscus plants. And perhaps most importantly, alter your daily routines. Do not provide these scouts with a predictable baseline.
We've seen how these human networks use shifting shifts, AirPods, digital maps, and reverse camera tricks to build a massive, incredibly detailed database of your life. But I want to leave you with the final, chilling concept to mull over, something that isn't explicitly in these 2026 logs, but is the inevitable next step.
Where this is all heading.
Think about the sheer volume of data these scouts are collecting over months of surveillance. The gigabytes of reverse camera videos, the daily occupancy logs from the housekeeper, the exact coordinate geometry of your camera blind spots mapped by the kids. What happens when these physical scouts stop analyzing all that footage themselves?
That's the real nightmare scenario.
What happens when they just feed all these daily street-level videos into advanced AI prediction algorithms? Algorithms that can process thousands of hours of video in seconds, cross-referencing your car's departure time with the flick of your bedroom light to instantly calculate the absolute perfect, most statistically vulnerable minute to strike your home.
It takes the human error out of the casing completely.
The eyes on the street mapping your house might still be human, but the brain predicting your very next move might not be.
That is a terrifying thought to end on.
Thank you for joining this deep dive. It's a lot to process, but knowledge is the best perimeter defense you can build. Remember, next time you look out your window, keep your eyes open. Ignore the demographic. Ignore the prop. See the behavior, not just the disguise.